Colorado's outdoor industry is all about people who enjoy the ups and downs, the peaks and the valleys. Fair to say the industry is not enjoying that experience as President Trump's trade war against the entire world sends stocks down and tariffs up, with even his own administration leaders seemingly confused about whether this is a bluff or a belief set. Mark Salinger looks at the impact on Colorado's outdoor economy.
From all the times I've climbed mountains or gone into canyons like the Grand Canyon, you kind of have this road map and this map, this topo map, and you kind of know where you're going.
The people who work in the outdoor industry are used to climbing uphill for fun. Now it feels like they're doing it for work as well.
We don't have any of that. This is none of that. There's no map. There's no topo map. We're not even sure where the mountain is, but we're climbing.
Kent Ebersole is the president of the Outdoor Industry Association based in Boulder. They represent hundreds of major companies around the country, from REI to Patagonia to Dick's Sporting Goods. Everyone seems to be asking the same questions right now.
Most of it is based on uncertainty. They're trying to figure out what's going to happen. What do I do?
Today, they held a town hall for their members with lawyers to help everyone figure out how to navigate the tariffs.
And I've never seen such a period of volatility, uncertainty.
The outdoor industry in Colorado generated nearly $14 billion in spending in 2022, according to the U.S. Department of Commerce. It employs more than 130,000 workers in our state. Now 84% of the Outdoor Industry Association's members say they'll be impacted by tariffs.
Everyone's impacted by these tariffs, but the small and medium-sized companies are the ones that are really, really impacted.
And Colorado will feel a major impact. Between the skiing, biking, hiking, and everything else we do here, our state loves to splurge on outdoor gear. That could all get more expensive.
And you go to the store because you need trekking poles. Well, you heard it, aluminum tariffs. There's a 35% on aluminum tariffs.
Yet another mountain left to climb. But this time, no one knows where the summit is.
That's what it is. It just feels like a long slog uphill.
President Trump wants to bring manufacturing jobs to the U.S. and increase the number of products made in the United States. What that plan doesn't seem to account for is that we don't have the infrastructure for that here, at least right now. Ken says it would take years to build the factories needed to produce some of the outdoor products fully in the United States.
So, I mean, we think about ourselves as an outdoorsy state. That can be a different thing than having the big industry players here. How will we be impacted versus other states?
Yeah, so we have one of the largest outdoor industry economies in the entire country and the sixth largest growing outdoor industry in the entire country. So that means that we already have a huge economy that's based on these types of things right now, and it's only continuing to grow even more.
Yeah, if people are wondering, why are we spending so much time talking about these tariffs? Because they impact so many Coloradans.
Everybody who buys anything.
Yep, Mark, thank you. Republican Congressman Jeff Hurd of Colorado is joining a small but growing group in his own party pushing back on Trump's trade war against the world. Hurd is co-sponsoring a bill challenging Trump's authority to levy the tariffs in the first place. Hurd is one of two Republican co-sponsors on what's called the Trade Review Act of 2025. It was introduced in the House yesterday. It mirrors a bipartisan resolution introduced in the Senate. It would allow Congress the power to approve or reject tariffs imposed by the president. Now, the president could still drop tariffs on a country, but they would expire after 60 days unless Congress approves. Hurd says this is not a political issue for him. He'd support that policy no matter who is in the White House. President Trump has already threatened to veto that bill if it passes Congress. Hurd's support for the bill sets him apart from other Colorado Republicans in Congress, like Representative Gabe Evans, who's spoken out publicly in favor of Trump's tariffs. Colorado now has its second and third cases of measles this year. The state health department says a baby in Denver under the age of 1, too young to get vaccinated, tested positive over the weekend. And within just the past few hours, the state's health department announced that an adult down in Archuleta County in southwest Colorado tested positive over the weekend. The baby had recently traveled to an area of Chihuahua, Mexico that's experiencing a measles outbreak. The state's first reported case was out of Pueblo, and that woman had also recently traveled to Mexico, but the state says they don't think the cases are related. This case out of southwest Colorado, Archuleta County, is not linked to either of the first two either. That person, whose vaccination status has not been released, was at Wolf Creek Ski Area in Pagosa Springs from March 28th to March 30th. Also went to the city market in Pagosa and Pagosa Medical Group on March 31st. The baby who had measles was at the Denver Health Emergency Department on Bannock on Monday, so anybody who overlapped in those spaces is being asked to watch out for symptoms. As always, measles is highly contagious. It spreads through the air when a sick person coughs or sneezes. We should say the vaccine is safe, it's highly effective. Babies normally don't get the first dose of that vaccine until they're a year old, but doctors said that some parents should talk to their pediatrician about the potential of an earlier dose.
The groups that would be traveling back and forth to Mexico, if your child is immunocompromised, I think that is going to be a really good conversation to have with your pediatrician quickly.
If you start to show symptoms of measles, you should call the urgent care center or ER before you go in. Let them know you're coming to prevent more exposures. A bipartisan bill that would slow down the public's right to open records in Colorado while giving speedier preference to journalists may get vetoed by Democratic Governor Jared Polis. The bill's opponents include some journalists uncomfortable with the idea of special privileges or the government deciding who is and is not a journalist. The Democrats who run the state legislature have rolled back the public's right to know in a couple ways in recent years. This latest bill tries to address the crushing volume of public records requests that come into agencies and offices around the state. The bill would allow governments more time to provide records to everyone except journalists. The Colorado Freedom of Information Coalition, large group, lot of interest, but includes journalism outlets, is asking Polis to veto the bill, saying that it creates unnecessary barriers to public records. The governor's office told us he has major concerns about eroding access to public records and concerns as well about the government deciding who is and is not a journalist. That certainly sounds like that bill is on a fast train to veto town. We'll keep you updated. For years, people in this country without authorization have been told, while you're here, you got to pay your taxes. Now, the IRS is going to turn that tax info over to immigration agents for deportation work. Under the agreement, ICE could submit names and addresses of taxpayers that ICE suspects of violating federal immigration law, and the IRS will then cross-reference that information with what they have in their taxpayer data. Today, the acting director of ICE insisted this type of cross-agency partnership is strictly for major criminal cases. But it's not exactly clear what data IRS will be turning over. Federal law protects taxpayer information like home addresses, earnings, and other data from disclosure, even between government agencies. The Trump administration has been trying to grease the skids on this, replacing multiple IRS leaders with new personnel who are more willing to hand over that taxpayer info. A recent study by the Institute on Taxation and Economic Policy estimated that undocumented immigrants paid $96 billion in taxes, federal, state, and local, in 2022. For additional insights on the concerns that immigrants in Colorado face as they filed their taxes this year, I would like to recommend some great reporting that just came from Denverite. Their Kevin Beatty dropped into the Dayton Street Day Labor Center in Aurora, where advocates were working hard to convince immigrants to go to free tax prep clinics. A lot of the center's clients are asylum seekers with work authorization in this country. But then they went silent after the ICE raids in Denver. Denverite spoke to organizers who spent weeks calling around trying to convince immigrants individually to come into the clinic to file their taxes. Denverite also spoke with immigrants concerned that if they don't pay their taxes, that could just create more problems for them. It's an excellent report that dives into the taxes that immigrants are expected to pay and how tax info has been used against immigrants in Colorado in the past. You can find the full article linked on Next social media pages and in our special recommendation page on 9news.com. The Nuggets' firing of Michael Malone, winningest coach in franchise history, along with general manager Calvin Booth, with 3 games left in the season with playoff hopes alive, that goes down as an all-time shocker. Not that Coach Malone is out. That would not have been a surprise after this frustrating season, but with 3 games left, that feels harsh, disrespectful even. It also feels logical. I'll explain my thoughts on that in a minute. First, though, can we just take a moment of appreciation for Coach Malone's 10 years here, for his patience in helping Nikola Jokic develop into the best player in the world, for the coach's direct way of speaking about the best and worst moments in his time with the Nuggets, and for that Nuggets championship parade where that man had himself a time.
You're a part of this. I've dreamed about this day since I got here 8 years ago. So I want to say, Nuggets Nation, I love you. Nuggets Nation, let's do it again.
Alas, he was not able to do it again, and he's out after 8 straight winning seasons. Final season being one where the Joker is having a year for the ages. But the Nuggets just couldn't get right around him, especially defensively. And they're teetering on the edge of the playoffs, having dropped 4 straight. There is a coldness in the Nuggets firing the winningest coach in their history, the only coach to bring him an NBA title, tossing Michael Malone out with 3 games left in what still could be a playoff season. But there is also a lesson there about not prolonging the inevitable, even at the end of a meaningful relationship. Nuggets ownership said today that they were going to change leadership in the offseason. You could understand fans saying, well, then why not give Coach Malone the chance to make one more playoff run with the guys, see if they can salvage the season? Ownership says the change is about seeing if they can create some kind of a spark. Unsaid, perhaps, is that there was actually a greater danger. And that danger was that Coach Malone and the Nuggets would have fixed their issues in the playoffs, that they would have made a decent run short of a championship, that they would have made the already decided departure even more painful in the offseason. Face it, outside of sports, a lot of us have been there, right? In a job or in a personal relationship where staying longer for old time's sake, for just one more chance, is not the healthy choice. It's just prolonging the inevitable. Fresh starts are not easy, but now the Nuggets have one.
We've been looking and watching closely to not lose over $5 million in funding this year.
Nonprofit finds itself in financial freefall after their work with migrants leads to the loss of millions in federal funds. And a book ban in Elbert County keeps going back and forth, including a battle over whether the forbidden books even belong to the school district anymore. That's next. A school district in Elbert County is fighting to keep banned books off its shelves after a federal court order directed those books be returned to the school's libraries. Last month, a judge ordered the Elizabeth School District to return 19 books that district leaders had removed from libraries. Books that included mentions of the LGBTQ community, religious views, drug use, books that included profanity or sexual content. A high schooler sued to get access to the books with the help of the ACLU, NAACP, and an authors guild. The district is appealing the court ruling. They say they can't put the books back because they already threw them out. A federal judge isn't buying that excuse, especially since attorneys for the ACLU offered to replace the banned books free of charge. The judge again ordered the books to go back on library shelves in Elizabeth, but that order is on hold while the district appeals.
Another warm spring day. In spite of the abundant cloud cover, temperatures 10 degrees above average in the low to mid 70s. Tomorrow we'll be talking about the wind and elevated fire danger. Temperatures this afternoon were warm, but we're going to go warmer as we move through the rest of the week. We're still in the 70s this hour, and while the winds are not a big feature yet, they will be tomorrow, increasing with gusts to 20, 30, even 40 miles per hour. So red flag warning for high fire danger out tomorrow for northeastern Colorado, the southern foothills, and Denver. High clouds are coming in ahead of a Pacific storm that's basically going to go north of us. Not going to get much in the way of rain or snow out of these clouds. We're going to continue with this warm, dry weather trend, and we have a beautiful evening out there tonight for anything that you might want to do. Temperatures go into record territory Friday and Saturday. 80 Friday, 85 Saturday would tie the record, but signs that next week the pattern could shift to cooler weather and some beneficial showers, and by then we'll really need them.
Free Day at the Denver Art Museum gave visitors more than just an education in art. The day had a focus on sustainability.
We're at the 3rd annual Denver Art Museum Sustainability Fair. Every year we try to do something for the community.
We're drylands agroecology research, so we really base ourselves in regenerating landscapes, but also regenerating community and regenerating our social landscapes.
It's just kind of rethinking your way of life, I would say.
I do have a garden this year, and I'm a real novice, so there are some things I've learned about composting. I learned more about bees and the importance of them in our environment.
We put beehives at corporations and buildings. We're also educating people about what they can do at their homes in terms of taking care of bees.
We have the green Latinos here.
We represent our communities of color and making sure that we're fighting for clean air, water, and soil. Advocacy and sustainability go hand in hand. It's about being good stewards of our environment. And when we're good stewards, we pollute ourselves less.
With all these organizations here, there's so much to learn. Even if it's just one aspect that you learned today and you continue on with that, then we've done our job.
A nonprofit in Aurora is losing millions of dollars in funding a month as the Trump administration targets groups helping migrants. Their community-wide food pantry is at risk. Hey, a reminder, you can catch this program each weeknight at 6 p.m. streaming on 9 News Plus. And next is also a podcast. Find us wherever you get your podcast feeds. A hub for the metro area's refugee and immigrant communities is seeing abrupt cuts to their state and federal funding. The Village Exchange Center has lost $2 million for its food pantry, and there are more cuts to other programs like its health clinics. Nonprofits now worried about the ripple effect in the community.
It's devastating to both our team and the communities that we serve. I mean, we, at this point, have people who come here from 42 different countries of origin. It just really puts us in an insecure and vulnerable space. To know that we could just have money pulled that quickly and being asked just to stop work overnight. And my name is Amanda Blarock. I'm the CEO and co-founder of the Village Exchange Center. So the Village Exchange Center is a community center that works with refugee immigrants and receiving communities. Recently, knowing that we had 12 federal grants, we've been looking and watching closely to not lose over $5 million in funding this year. About 3 weeks ago, we learned from FEMA that we were going to have a stop work order on our FEMA SSP money. It was a $2.1 million grant to provide food assistance both with cooked meals and also food from the food pantry for new arrivals with A numbers who came from the southern border. Additionally, there has been stop work orders on all of our health equity and cultural navigation programs. We also had a loss of funding on the pantry side as well from Denver. Who also has had a stop work order from the federal government. People are freaked out. They are scared. They're scared for their lives. They're scared for their jobs, for their families. For the food pantry, no, we did not stop serving the people that we work with, but we are all pausing to rethink what we're doing and how we can do it to the best possible way to extend the funding and make sure that we don't have a gap in services. So it really does have a ripple effect on the community across the board, in addition to our internal team who's holding the space for this.
Center says it's doing everything it can not to cut services, reorganizing operations, and reaching out to all kinds of potential donors. We are back with your feedback about the firing of Coach Malone. Thank you for that. Arm's still broken. That's still not good. We're back with your feedback next. I got a text, heard this a couple times recently. Where is Marshall Zellinger? Have not seen him lately. My man Marshall is on paternity leave right now. He is home with the fam. He'll be back soon. Don't worry. Dorothy says, just want to let you know my husband said you're the only one on TV news he will watch. He does not like the media at all, so that is a big deal. Thank you, she says, for your honesty and integrity. Well, I hope he is watching even though he might hear some things he doesn't like. That's a key to making progress. Feedback on the Nuggets firing from Susan, Lance, and Kim, who all wrote in about the Rockies. We're out of time, so I'll see you next time.